Commissioner Christel. We are waiting on two more commissioners. We're waiting on Commissioner Tanderick and Commissioner Meta. Commissioner Meta has just arrived. And we're waiting on Commissioner Tanderick. Welcome, Commissioner Meta. Welcome, Commissioner Tanderick. All right, and we're on. It's 7 o'clock. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining ANC3F. This is our March meeting. And as you can see, I'm just trying something a little bit new this time. I'm going to be going through a PowerPoint that I've put together so that we can all just kind of go through the meeting together. Let's just see how this goes. For now, you can see what we've got on our agenda. I've done the welcome and the call to order. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
Chair David, we need to do our roll call.
Oh, sorry. So we've got Commissioner Still,
Here.
Commissioner Meta,
Here.
Commissioner Wall,
Here.
Commissioner Namath,
Here.
and Commissioner Tanderick.
Here.
And Commissioner Appa is, she's on leave, so she's out this time. Thank you. Can I get a motion? So we had I've sent out the agenda, sorry. Just going back to it so everyone can see the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve today's agenda?
I move that we approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Second. All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Any opposed? And the motion passes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes? We normally don't, so the minutes went out about a week ago.
I'll move to approve the minutes of February 15th.
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you. All right, now we are moving to commissioner reports. I will start with Commissioner Tanderick.
All righty. Hello, everyone. So I have been working with Bill Sittig, who is on the Ward 3 redistricting task force. So we've been emailing a lot about some of the boundaries that are set, as well as some of the SMDs that are being proposed. And so I want to present you all a mostly current map of what the board is thinking about for ANC3F. So not much has changed, I think, in the previous past 2 years. And so I just want to quickly go over what are some of the boundaries, as well as what are some of the minor changes that may or may not have happening. This boundaries are subject to change. So they're actually meeting tonight, and I'll put the link of the the link as the Zoom link as well as like the websites where they have the documents up, and I really want to give people a chance to read it over and get a sense of like what the boundaries for 3F are going to be. So this is mostly going to be it. So if we start on the northern boundary, it's pretty much at Military Avenue on the top, as well as Nevada Road. Along on the western part, you have, I believe that's Nebraska, on the top right. Now, there are some proposals to actually add a little bit east of Nebraska Avenue into 3F, but it's currently being talked about even as we speak right now. They have meetings every single Tuesday until the end of this month. And then as we go along south on the western side, we have Reno Road, and then it sort of ends up the southwestern part is mostly Hearst Park. Now, there are some proposals to actually get rid of Hearst Park as well as a school not in 3F anymore. That is currently being talked about currently. So again, this map may change in a couple different ways. On the southern border is mostly Tilden Avenue. That's pretty much going to be certain for 3F. And then on the eastern part is pretty much Rock Creek Park. So I just want to get everybody a chance to just be able to see the new boundaries for 3F and what will most likely be the case for 3F. I'll give an update next month as to like what they're going to propose for the council. And then after the council will approve of like the redistricting. And then that'll be the new boundaries for 3F. So I just want to give you all a chance to see what this looks like too.
Thank you, Commissioner Tanderick. Commissioner Wall.
I have a quick question for Commissioner Tanderick. Can you explain the process then? So once the overall boundary for 3F is set, then what happens to establish the new SMD boundaries after that?
So what's happening?
Yeah,
no, totally. Yeah. So what's happening? So last month was a lot of just like, what is 3F along with like, what is all of Ward 3? And then this actually tonight is the first meeting where we're going to discuss the SMD boundaries. So there's at least a couple of proposals written by various community members. And what people can do is that, and I'll put the link in like the chat, as if you go to DC Redistricting Online, and it's like a whole software that people can get into. And basically you can even set like your own boundaries of what you want to see for ANC3F as well. So tonight they're going to talk about it. So like I don't want to show that because like it's going to be like brand new for like the task force tonight. Because most of the conversation has just been like, what is the boundary for each for ANC3F and 3G and whatnot too. So that's still up in the air. Yeah, like that's not set in stone and probably won't be for like a couple of weeks.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Commissioner Tanderick. Commissioner Wall.
I'll combine this. Thanks, Chair David. Thank you. Perfect. My main announcement, this actually covers my treasurer announcements as well, is to remind folks of the open application process for ANC3F grants. So this is the application. It's on our website. When you've completed this, submit it to commissioners@anc3f.us. The goal is to receive these by the end of this month so that we can consider them, review them, and make a decision of grant awards in April. So please take a look through this document, the application. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us to try to sort through those questions. But we do encourage folks, if you have an opportunity that you think might fit the guidelines that are outlined here, definitely submit a grant. In the past, we've supported Van Ness Main Street, the Rock Creek Conservancy, as well as the Food and Friends Food Bank, all very great organizations that are doing great work for the community. So just want to encourage folks that if you have something you think might merit ANC support, to take a look. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Wall. Commissioner Mehta.
Sorry, excuse me. I think I will save I do have an update, but it really falls within the soapstone update. So I will hold my comments until then.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Mehta. Commissioner Castillo.
So switching gears, let's talk tennis. There are two tennis announcements. One is that the long under construction Hearst Park and Pool, the pools, still a little chilly for the pool to be open yet, but the tennis courts are open. So if you're interested in playing tennis, they're open. I've seen people playing on them. And then the second part of tennis is the courts at UDC. And I understand Ms. Juanita Gray will be on later to talk about the enrollment. But there's a part of the tennis courts about the lights, and it's our intention. We actually need to get go to the zoning commission to get that changed. And so just kind of giving everybody heads up that we're going to work on that relatively soon, possibly having an information item next month at our ANC meeting, and then hopefully an action in May. So stay tuned. Thanks. That's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Christo. Commissioner Namath.
I actually do not, pardon me, I do not have anything for this evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Namath. Now moving on to, okay, so treasurer's report.
Yeah, I combined that with my my main announcement was on the grant application. We will have a report on the I guess fiscal second quarter will be next month in April for the quarter ended March 31st.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Wall. All right, now we're moving on to action items. And we'll be discussing 5030 Linnaean Avenue permit request, and that is with Commissioner Mehta.
Yes. Hi, everybody. And is Mr. Landsman here? You
Yes,
are.
ma'am.
Okay, hi. Thank you for joining.
Hi.
I will describe very briefly that this is a request. This is a public space permit application and involving a property that will be subdivided into two lots, and where there is currently one house, that house, I understand, will be raised, and there will be two houses built on that property and one driveway that serves both properties. There is currently already a driveway, so the way that I am thinking about this is sort of like shifting over. It is a move and it doesn't involve public space, so there is a requirement to get an application, but the net result will be, I think, where we are, and Mr. Landsman can answer more questions about that, but it will be the same one single curb cut for the driveway that is going to move over to serve both new houses. And Mr. Landsman, I'll turn it over to you now to explain.
Right, so great intro, and that's just about all there is to it. So we've got an existing curb cut on the south end of the site, plan left there on your screen. We're going to be removing that curb cut, relocating it more central in the lot. Still be a single wide driveway to service two separate houses splitting after the property line. We'll be taking one street tree and moving it to the north to allow for that driveway. And then in the location where the existing curb cut is, we'll be planting two new street trees. So a net increase of two street trees. We're also adding lead walks to each house, one on each side of the driveway. And happy to answer any questions you guys might have.
Commissioners, have we got any questions? At this point, we'll take any questions from the community. You have about a minute for your questions.
I have a quick question for Mr. Landsman. Is your client, Mr. Landsman is a civil engineer, and I'm asking if your client is a developer or is it a family or a private property owner?
My client is a builder.
Is a builder, okay.
And I should have said as part of my intro, our proposal meets DDOT regulations. We've gotten support from all the agencies, and we're planning to be a public space committee in a few weeks.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, this is very similar to something that we approved that the ANC3F approved a few years ago at Alton Place, where, again, one driveway shared two new homes, and they had to move the curb cut. So it's a routine thing.
Commissioner Wall.
Quick question, Commissioner Mehta, can you just please, for my own benefit and for attendees' benefit, explain the ANC's role for this approval? In terms, is it just because it's a public space request, or what triggers it?
Yes, there is no variance or special exception being requested, so it will not go on to the BZA level like many of the other, certainly all of the other matters we, for example, reviewed in the prior meeting. So the role here is simply to look at the plans and vote on it, and then I would go into, depending on the outcome, register the response, the decision, I guess, of the ANC in the TOPS system. And that's pretty much where it ends. To my knowledge, there's not going to be a hearing or anything of that nature at the BZA level. And as Commissioner Nemeth said, it's fairly routine. I'm not aware of any objections from any neighbors. And it does, the net result is simply moving the driveway over, basically, at the end of the day.
Not to
thank you.
interject, but you guys review curb cut moves generally, not every DDOT application, but curb cut moves or new curb cuts. They require us to come to the ANC.
Right.
Got it. Thanks very much. Appreciate it, Mr. Lansman.
Yeah, it's public space permits generally come before us.
I don't see any other questions from the community. Commissioner David?
All right, any more questions from the commissioners? Seeing none, can we get a motion?
I will make a motion to recommend approval for the public space application.
Second it.
Second, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? So the motion passes.
Chair David, there's a comment in the chat. I don't know if you saw that.
No.
Yeah, it just came in while we were voting.
Yeah, I see that comment. So the trees that we'll be planting will be as dictated by urban forestry. So we'll be working with Mr. Evan Anderson on selection of this species. And I believe most of the street trees that they are planting now are natives. And they're generally shooting for that in their street trees. But we'll ask him if he has a preference of a native species. We'll certainly specify that for it.
All right, did that question suffice, Barbara? The question about trees native to the Mid-Atlantic area. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Mr. Lansman.
Thank you, guys. Have a good evening.
Same to you. All right, now we will be moving on to just the regular agenda. Is Lieutenant Amadeo, is he here? I think we're moving faster than he thought. He was on, waited a while last time. Okay, we'll just move on to the next until he comes back. Is Mr. Hauser here?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me, ANC. I appreciate it greatly and look forward to continued calls to be on. I spoke with Monica the other day, and we were discussing, where the hotel is, where it's going, as far as since the incident occurred. We're running back to normal as DC can be right now. DC is still very slow when it comes to the hotel business right now and hospitality in general, but we're back to taking guests in, and believe we've finished our investigation with DC police. I personally have read the affidavit, the full investigation, and as stated before, this was an outside incident that made its way into our building through some guests that chose to do their deed. So I don't know how much more about that I can speak about, but on our last call, Lieutenant Amadeo had brought up some points that I took very seriously, and have personally watched and agree with anybody who has said that the planter box out in front of the hotel is a lingering point. And so do you mind if I share a screen real quick and show you what I talked to the ownership of the hotel, and we really don't want to get rid of the planter box in general. It's our only bit of real landscaping we have at the property. It's to make it go away would make just a sea of brick out in front of the hotel. And seeing that we do landscape that planter area, we've come up with some creative ideas to keep people from at least sitting on it. And if this works, then it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the neighborhood because it still looks nice when we have plantings in there, when the crepes are in bloom, and it'll stop people from sitting there. If this doesn't stop people from sitting on the box, then we may need to remove it. But if you can see my screen, these are some of the ideas we have putting it on there, still keeping the beauty of the neighborhood and the planter box in place. And we're willing to definitely go that route if that is an acceptable option. When we do find exactly what we want to put in there, and I want to do it quickly, we will present that to the ANC, and even on the next call, we'll put it in there. We'll make sure that it's not, gaudy, or we'll make sure that it fits in with the neighborhood and the community, and that it's not dangerous, just uncomfortable to have people sit on that. And that's really about all I have for this meeting. And again, thank you for inviting me, and here to do whatever we can with and for the community.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser. Can you tell us what the planter does? What does that device do?
Oh, I'm sorry. I will share my screen again. Basically, let's pretend for a moment that this is the planter edge. This will make it so that it's not a flat surface for somebody to sit on. I mean, I guess you could sit on just about anything, but some of the things we saw were kind of spike related, and we don't want to do that. We don't want anybody to, inadvertently hurt themselves. And basically, this top item would be side by side by side, and it would take away the flat surface for somebody to sit on.
Okay, and this would be outside of the Days Inn.
This is the planter box directly out in the front of the hotel. Yes, it sits around 3 feet high. Okay. So it's a perfect sitting, congregating meeting space. And so we want to keep the niceness of the planter box. We just don't want people sitting and congregating on it.
Okay, if you can keep that screen up. Commissioners, have you got any questions? And then we'll go to the public.
I'm just curious as to, so was the issue is that people were sitting on the planter box, and like, was that the issue right there? That's why we're adding these kind of bars. I'm just sort of curious as to, and also how does that relate to like the incident that happened, the shooting that happened before?
Well, it is two separate incidents. One, the incident was a totally separate incident from this, but we have heard from the community, and we happen to have a fair amount of people who are non-guests hanging out in front of the hotel, which does not look good for anybody in the neighborhood. And through personal observation, when they hang out, they're hanging out there because it's a nice place to sit on the edge of the planter box. And we feel that if we don't give them that opportunity to sit on the planter box, that they will continue to move on down the street.
All right, any other commissioners with any questions?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Hauser, for coming. So I take it that if you're planning to keep the planter box and you're planning to put these curved handle-like things around the perimeter so people don't sit on them, you're also planning to plant something in them? Because unless I'm mistaken, you correct me if I'm wrong, there's currently nothing planted in them, right?
There is currently nothing planted in them. We actually work with a local landscaper twice a year, but because we had the the break in the weather, and then we knew we had more weather coming, we actually asked them to put the plantings off for about 2 weeks.
Okay, so that's also forthcoming, as well as these little structures around the edge.
Absolutely, and we can't wait for it. I mean, it's a beautiful planter box when it's filled up, and it'll make the neighborhood proud.
Great. So just sort of thank you for that. That's helpful, and looking forward to seeing the plantings. Are there any other, as you know, there's been a lot of concern around safety and the activity that for whatever reason seems to find its way 2 days in. So my question is, are there any other updates that you can share with us around any improvements regarding access to various doors? I think that was a concern at our last meeting. There were ways for people to let other people in through doors that were not monitored. So can you tell us about that?
Absolutely, and we actually, I did address this in the last meeting. Every one of the doors in that building has a access lock on it. So only employees with access keys, electronic RFID keys, or guests can access the entryway doors. And, you know, short of putting a person at each door and asking for identification, a guest can let someone in to the hotel. And that is a challenge with any hotel. It doesn't matter if it's us or it's the Willard downtown. It's unless you have a person at each door, there is always the opportunity for somebody to let someone in. But we do have access on all of the doors and the elevators. I don't know if that answered the question properly, but we've had it on there for years and years and years.
Right, but you still ran into this issue at that recent event a month ago or so with people letting other people in. So it sounds like there haven't been any changes made to the years-long past practice. Is that? I was hoping there would be some kind of mitigation or just something else to reconsider how security is being addressed, and some changes in protocols that would prevent people from letting other people in when they're not supposed to be there.
The only thing that we've done is we've asked the guests, you know, to be mindful of their keys and to be careful who you're letting in. But unfortunately, there are times when people are just courteous as opposed to mindful. And again, I've read the affidavit, which is the full investigation. And without getting into it in any great detail, I believe somebody felt they were being courteous.
Commissioners, any other questions from any other commissioner? Any questions from the community? If you can raise your hand in the chat. Question from Barbara: are we opposed to having a place for people to sit? There are benches on Connecticut Avenue and Chevy Chase that everyone seems to enjoy. I don't mind seeing people sitting. Have you got a response to that, Mr. Hauser?
Not opposed to anybody sitting. It was actually in as an answer or a possible response to Lieutenant Amadeo's suggestion on the last ANC call to physically remove the planter box altogether to keep people from sitting or lingering in front of the hotel who do not belong there.
Yeah, and the issue was people just lingering there. All right, and then I'll just take the last question from someone with your hand raised, Galetcher. I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your name, but please speak.
Thank you very much. My name is Gail Teicher. So the Days Inn, also going back to the insurrection, rented to the Proud Boys. It was the headquarters of the Proud Boys. You've been renting out this place and putting virtually no care into it or making it at all other than a total interference in the neighborhood rather than being part of it. What are you, when the insurrection happened and then there was going to be the election, we tried reaching out every which way, and there was no sense that you were taking responsibility for what you chose to do and who you chose to rent with, whether there were people packing guns or anything else. But it was this is just continuing. And of course it's separate than the incident that happened. But that we're having a discussion of how much money you're going to put into building little iron things rather than creating something that is attractive to the community, but not an attractive nuisance to encourage loitering, rather than talking about the fact that the Days Inn plays no role in the community other than to just sit there. And
Thank you, Ms. Lexi. Thank you. Have you got a response, James?
Yeah, I do. Ms. Fletcher, the truth is, and it wasn't anything that we would have advertised to anybody, but we were working closely during the entire situation with not only Metropolitan Police, but we were also working with the federal law enforcement agencies. The FBI was in our building. We were asked to notify them if we had anybody that was questionable. The FBI worked extremely close with us, and they didn't find anything that was that they felt was warranted. Now, to answer a question for the entire community, we can't tell what political affiliation or any type of affiliation or lifestyle anybody is associated with when they make a reservation. And if we were to deny people based on any type of affiliation, race, creed, sex, religion, anything, that would it's against the law. It's against the law. So, just as if any inauguration happened, there are people that come to DC that protest and oppose, and there are people that come to DC to embrace and accept, and that's what makes DC good. But yeah, unfortunately, we can't profile our guests. It's actually illegal.
And just to add to what Mr. Hauser said, for the community, DC is one of the few jurisdictions in the country that prohibits discrimination based on political affiliation under the DC Human Rights Act. So
Right.
Mr. Hauser is correct that political affiliation is a protected status in our city, just like gender, race, and religion.
And as far as what about carrying guns, I saw your chat. It's against the law to carry guns in DC, period. Just like it's against the law to sell illicit drugs or anything else, prostitution and everything else. Unfortunately, there are people out there that just do these things. And that's where we have to support our local police. We have to support every one of the, I believe, 32 agencies we've got in the district, and work with them. When we see something, we have to say something. And the last comment I saw in there, also, Gail, is I agree with you 100%. The orange-red mulch is ugly.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hauser. And this is a great segue into our public safety update from Lieutenant Amadeo.
Thank you very much, Ms. David. Sorry I missed most of what Mr. Hauser had to say. I got caught up in something else that was happening here, but I'm happy to be with you all now. I could touch on that last comment regarding carrying of guns in DC. It is not inherently illegal. You can receive a permit to carry a firearm in DC, even if you are not a resident of the District of Columbia. So that always isn't the best indicator either. If I could jump into the crime stats, the most pressing matter is robberies, specifically for 203. In 2021, at this point last year, we had one robbery. We recorded one robbery in 2021. For 2022, we're at 7. Most recently, there were 4. 4 of those 7 occurred this month. 3 of them happened overnight or in the very early morning hours. The most recent that we recorded was at the Politics and Prose bookstore. To our ANC representatives, as soon as the department releases a video of that for YouTube, I will share that with you all. It was a pickpocket of an elderly citizen. 2 suspects entered the Politics and Prose bookstore when this victim was in the register queue. He was approached from behind. They entered into his pants pocket, unbeknownst to the victim, while a second suspect impeded his path out of that register queue and distracted him by dropping something on the floor. So it is something that we want to get a video out to the public for awareness and identification purposes. But please be mindful of that. When the video is released, I will send it out. The department will release it as well, but we would encourage everyone to take a look if you would recognize the people that were involved. Beyond the robberies, which is a significant concern, total crime for 203 right now is up 3% for the year. So the numbers are relatively the same. I want to say that we're somewhere between, we're in the 70s. I think 79 right now for total crimes, which is yielding a 3% increase for the year to date. Also of note, not particularly for 203, but for all of 2D in general, and most of the city that has commercial businesses, are commercial burglaries also occurring overnight, where we're seeing front glass doors or windows shattered. Suspects are going right for the cash registers. I was most recently at the Glover Park Ace Hardware that was victim to this, and the suspect entered at 1:40 in the morning, was out and in the car and on his way at 1:41. We have information out as far as the suspect is concerned for that as well. And a vehicle that they were using in that offense was a silver Chevrolet Cruze. But we're encouraging all our businesses to ensure that they're not leaving anything of value in the cash registers. If it can be locked in a safe or dropped on a daily basis, that would certainly be encouraged. Again, the suspects are going straight for the cash registers when they are entering through a shattered front glass window or front glass door. Specifically moving on to Forest Hills. I know at the CAC meeting, Commander Bedleon mentioned we do have a footman, a foot officer in that area now. That is Officer Zuniga, Udis Zuniga. He is a near 25-year veteran of the police department and has made many referrals to DVH and mobile crisis for a lot of the folks exhibiting disorderly conduct in the area. He has also been able to update our database of business owners and emergency contacts should we receive any of the commercial burglary problems overnight in our immediate area. We'll be able to get in contact with the business owners right away. Some of you may have noticed we've taken to having a police car always visible in and around the Days Inn. If anyone's noticed that hasn't moved, I saw some news. A police officer was sitting there for all hours of the night, but it was we are leaving the vehicle that was visible in addition to.
Sorry, Lieutenant Amadeo. Something's your sound is going in and out.
I'm sorry. I'm on my phone here. Can you hear me? It's not connected.
It's fine now. Yeah. Maybe if you're closer. Yeah.
It's not connected to the Wi-Fi.
So you're fine. You're fine if you're closer. You mentioned a car outside of Days Inn?
Right. I just wanted, we got some emails from citizens that were under the impression that an officer was just sitting there and not doing anything, but as of right now, it's just the car that Officer Zuniga uses while he's working to move from location to location. If he's going from Van Ness up past Forest Hills or through Forest Hills, and then that car stays when he's not at work to serve as a visible deterrent. But we had received some emails that folks were concerned that an officer was just sitting there and wasn't patrolling. But I wanted to put out there that that is not the case for that vehicle in particular. In addition to that visible deterrent, we've increased traffic enforcement. I know that's been noticed by a good number of people from the emails that we've received as well. One of the other issues that we've received was marijuana usage in Soapstone Valley. We have referred the complaints that we've received to Park Police, their District 3 office, which is located in Rock Creek Park. They can be contacted directly at 202-426-7716. I'll put that phone number in the chat as soon as we're done. But if we receive the calls, we refer them to Park Police in addition to responding as well, but it is their jurisdiction.
All right.
Miss David, I know you had mentioned CVS disbanded their security just before the end of last year. That is correct. We were aware of that as well. And at this point have been unreceptive to our request for reinstituting security. I'm not sure if you've heard anything else.
I have not yet, but thank you for that update.
It appears that they have additional staff. As far as I can tell, it seems like they've not only increased their staffing during the day, but I also wanted to point out that within the last month, one of the chronic thieves that was hitting them every single day was arrested and charged with several of the thefts. He, however, was released with a court date. So he's still out. To my knowledge, he has not recommitted any thefts in that area. He is of Southeast DC. That was traveling by Metro to that specific CVS to target them for thefts in the early morning hours. If I may, Ms. David, if I have time, from the last meeting that we had in February, I did happen to go through some of the call data for 4400 Connecticut Avenue, if you'd like me to discuss that now.
Commissioners, do you want to discuss that now? Yes.
Okay. For 2021 in particular, there were 180 calls that I was able to go through individually. Of the 180 calls, and this is coming from the same data that was released by our Public Information Office, they released data for 2020 and 2021. For 2021 specifically, there were roughly 180 calls that we received for the 4400 block of Connecticut. I'm sorry, for 4400 Connecticut Avenue or a 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue as days increase.
Sorry, your sound went out again.
I'm sorry. All right, let me see. Realized as soon as I got here early that I left my computer at home.
Okay, no problem.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but it's low.
Okay. I'll speak as loud as I can.
All right.
All right, so for 4400 Connecticut, we receive calls that would either be associated with the block or the specific address that the Days Inn carries. For 2021, there were roughly 180 calls to that location, either the block or the hotel. Of those 180 calls, 50 were determined to be duplicates. The same assignment appearing twice, and that could either be for the request for a crime scene technician or a person calling twice for additional information after the first call was received, or even for like a tow crane, or rather a tow truck to come if a vehicle was disabled or for a traffic accident or something of the like. That left 130 total calls associated with the block or the address. Of those 130, 68, just over half, were associated with the property in particular. Of those 68 that were associated with the hotel, the highest number of calls that we received were for disorderly conduct. That totaled 22. The second highest at 8 calls for service was for domestic assaults. And of note, 2 drug complaints and 1 found weapon. So again, for 2021, out of 180 total calls with 50 duplicates, 68 were associated with the hotel. And I can provide this that breakdown in its entirety to be cross-referenced with what our public information office sent out to all of the commissioners as well for dissemination as you would see fit.
Okay, thank you so much. We have time for just two questions. So commissioners, have you got any questions?
Yes.
Okay, I have a couple.
Commissioner Still, and then Commissioner Tanderick, and then Commissioner Nemin.
I guess, thank you, Lieutenant, for this. So the 68 were the days in. What were the other 62? Do you have a breakdown of what those were?
Yeah, I didn't specifically take notes on them, but if I can run through this list here, you can see a lot of traffic stops, traffic accidents. There were assaults that did not happen within the property. Stolen vehicles, a lot of the stolen vehicle calls, that got my attention when I was looking at all of this, but it is Avis reporting vehicles not returned. And that didn't necessarily happen at that location, but it's Avis reporting their vehicles not being returned to any of the other Avis locations or that one in particular.
Right, it's just, I guess the reason for the question is just to see what happens at days in consistent with what's happening in the rest of the block. And it sounds like it's some are the same and some are different.
There were also some stops of folks in reference to disorderly conduct, traffic stops, traffic accidents, medical calls. Destruction of property, see the complainant, traffic stops. A car broken into. The records that I used to review this actually had the call taker's notes. So I was able to get a really good idea of what was actually happening. So I could either immediately see that there was a hotel room number associated with it, or it listed the lobby, or just by making the inferences from what was listed in the notes, whether or not this happened on property or in the street, if they list in the alleyway, if they list vehicles involved, or by the nature of the call for service, it was a traffic accident. Obviously, that wouldn't have happened on the hotel property.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Tanderick.
Yeah, 2 questions. First question, you mentioned that you have traffic enforcement. So does that mean like you're like pulling people over, and like what does that mean? And then I guess the second part of that is like where is it on the corridor itself, or is it like just all across kind of like an avenue?
It is all across the 2nd district. But as far as the traffic enforcement is concerned, we have at the second district a team of traffic enforcement officers that are specifically tasked with that mission, working during the day shift, that are moving in tandem as a unit with one another to specific areas of the city where we have received complaints that are traffic related. Specifically, I have asked them to go to the 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue, and if they observe the violations, then the folks that were in violation of the law, with the officers there observing it, are able to, at that point, address it. So if they observe the violation, then the violation is addressed. But as far as 203 is concerned, just specifically there, the epicenter would be the 4400 block of Connecticut Avenue. They're working the entire corridor, but they are not there. They're not only just there, they're moving throughout the second district.
Okay, and then my second main question was, you mentioned with the footman, he's getting observations of, like, I think you said of like disturbances. Can you just like clarify, like, what does that mean? And then like, I guess the other part is like, if they see one, how does like that footman respond? Like, does he like get someone to help the person? Like, what is like the procedure? Like if someone sees like a disorderly conduct?
Yes, if we're receiving calls for disorderly conduct, then the officer is responding, and he has made a great many, what I had mentioned before, a great many referrals to the Department of Behavioral Health. The only arrest, detention that I'm aware of was the chronic thief from CVS. That he's made everyone else, especially for disorderly conduct, those contacts have not elevated themselves to necessitating any sort of criminal apprehension for a violation of the law.
So you mentioned the idea that so the footman gives referrals to the Department of Behavioral Health, and then what happens from there? Like, because I think I'm trying to see like if there is like potential way to sort of be more proactive in that, making sure like the kind of like doesn't lead to like more serious crimes or conduct. Like, how is that sort of like involved in that?
Yeah, so we would when we make the referral to the Department of Behavioral Health, the mobile crisis team receives all the pertinent information, the basis for our contact, the location, the person involved. And if they can't immediately respond, they come out to do the follow-up. But then at that point, if it doesn't necessitate police contact, then we are no longer involved. It would be up to mobile crisis to determine the extent of the further services that would be rendered.
Okay, thank you.
And they can also be contacted directly. I can include that number in addition to Park Police's as well.
I was going to ask you for that number. That'd be great.
Yes.
All right, so then we've got Commissioner Namath, and then we've got someone in the community DCMA. So Commissioner Namath is, got like a minute, and then DCMA got a minute, so that we could move on with the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner David. So, Lieutenant, so I'm going to continue on the thread with the footman. So does he, he's on foot, so he's patrolling the area around Van Ness. Does he walk all the way up to the area around Politics Pros and the gas stations and then walk back down? So does he literally patrol that whole segment on foot, or does he like drive between the two areas? First of all,
it was a mix of both initially. At its inception, he was focusing in Cleveland Park, Van Ness, and Forest Hills. It was split between 3 locations. Based on what we've been seeing when it was reevaluated, that was pared down to essentially be the intersection, Connecticut and Van Ness, that stretch of Connecticut Avenue, or that stretch of Van Ness Street adjacent to Connecticut Avenue through the 4800 block of Connecticut Avenue. In the wake of what just happened at Politics and Pros in the 5000 block, we will be reevaluating this as well, but we want to be able to ensure that the officer can provide the best service to us, to the most concise area, rather than trying to spread him too thin if it is between Cleveland Park, Van Ness, and Forest Hills. So we're constantly reevaluating it, but right now, as manpower permits for him to take the assignment and not a normal patrol assignment for PSA 203, it would just be between like the 3000 block of Van Ness Street up Connecticut Avenue to the 4800 block on foot.
Would it be possible to augment him? So it's, I mean, because again, we don't want him to be stretched too thin as well, but I think it's important to have that presence. And, you know, we always hear Commander Bedley and even the chief talk about community policing. And I consider this to be a part of community policing, where you see certain officers visible on the street. They get to know the businesses. They get to know who are the regulars in the businesses, who are the managers of the various businesses and the shopkeepers and the residents, and they really become part of that community. And it'd be nice if we could have maybe a couple of officers who could truly be a presence and be known in the community.
I don't disagree, and I will certainly bring it back up. Right now, we are constrained manpower wise with the potential for the First Amendment activity. The trucker convoy stuff just waiting outside the city has constrained our already limited manpower. But if we can, we will certainly implement it. As it stands right now, Officer Zuniga has been able to take the assignment several days out of the week.
Thank you, Lieutenant Amadeo. DCMA.
Hi, Lieutenant Endall. This is Kim Farmer. Thanks for all your help this past week, Lieutenant. As some may know, I've been working on this crime issue for a long time. I don't want my husband's assault to be put under the rug. He had a gun to his head at 7 o'clock in the morning. It wasn't overnight. And we've been asking ANC for help for at least 14 months, and people were doing it before me. We now have drug dealing going on in our back alley. People are seeing what looks like drug dealing in Forest Hills. And these are all the same things that we said 14 months ago. And nobody did anything besides a couple calls with property management. But I mean, it's just the problems keeps going and going and going. And now, you know, a dad has a gun to his head on the way to work. And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, it's one thing if other people and officials are making efforts, but right now the only people making efforts is MPD, and that can't continue for 4 years. I mean, we're talking about tennis courts, and I just can't, it blows my mind that for all this time with all these issues and a 41% increase in violent crime, we're talking about tennis courts. Like, let's prioritize what's going on here and what's going to affect business. And I'm a condo owner, and so I feel like I'm losing property investment, and it's getting really out of control. And I think that officials need to step up. And if you're going to be a public official, represent your neighborhood and concerns.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer. Your crime is certainly not being swept under the rug. It is still under active investigation by 3 of our detective bureaus. The 2nd District.
I'm sorry, I did not mean you, Lieutenant Amadeo. I just want to make sure.
Lieutenant Amadeo, your response?
Oh, yeah, certainly. As I just mentioned to Ms. Farmer, her case in particular, occurring on March 4th, it did happen just prior to 7 o'clock in the morning. I said that to contrast it with Politics and Prose. The Politics and Prose incident happened in the afternoon, just before 4 p.m. But it is certainly not being swept under the rug. It is a very high priority for us, as all of the robberies are. As I mentioned, now we're at 4 for the month of March.
Lieutenant, I just want to be clear that I it's not MPD at all. That is, it's our only savior. So thank you.
I thank you, Ms. Farmer. I understand that, but for everyone else's awareness, so they can understand what in particular we are discussing is the 4 robberies for March. I'm not sure where I was, but uh, 3 street robberies in the overnight, very early morning hours, and the one most recent, Politics and Prose, in the afternoon, which was not a street robbery. It was a robbery pickpocket within a business. But they are all being actively investigated. If I have more information to share with you, I will. When we do, hopefully closures soon. And again, I'll push the video for identification purposes and awareness purposes for 5000 Connecticut, the Politics and Prose bookstore, as soon as it is made available.
Are there any preventative strategies?
For street robberies in particular?
Or just anything crime related?
Yes, there are. Our public information office additionally just published some robbery safety information as well, but as much as we'd like people to not be out alone or unaware of their surroundings, the fact of the matter is you should feel safe. If you were doing so, no matter what, you should be able to go to your car in the morning to go to work, regardless of whatever hour it is. Or if you're going to walk home from a bar, you should be able to walk home alone by yourself if you happen to be alone, and still get home with all of your personal possessions, and you'd be safe and healthy as well. If it can be avoided, that's great. If you can walk in a group, or if you don't have your headphones in, or if you're not paying attention to your phone, that could certainly perhaps alleviate some of the potential for violence. But if you know, when someone's just sitting in their car getting ready to pull out of a parking spot, that person's not doing anything wrong. They happened to be the victim of a crime where, you know, someone took advantage of them regardless of the circumstances. And we'll continue to do our best to be out there and to intervene. And when the things do happen, that we will hold people accountable for them.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Commissioner Wall.
Thanks, Chair David, and thanks, Lieutenant Amado. One, for the detail and depth through which you're examining the data to understand what these issues are. But I do have one question for you, and it's prompted somewhat by Ms. Farmer's comment with regard to, you know, what the ANC is doing. So I'd love to ask, you know, very directly, like, what, in your opinion, you know, knowing the ANC, knowing the commissioners, and knowing our role, what else can we as commissioners be doing to better help support crime in this area?
Well, that's a very good question. I certainly can't speak to I certainly can't speak to policy, as regardless of what that might be, we will continue to do our job to the best of our abilities within those within the guidelines that are afforded to us, whether the law changes or our department policy changes. I would certainly appreciate information getting pushed out. If for every major event that we've had or significant incident that we've seen occur within PSA 203, I try to be as prompt as I possibly can be with making sure that I get the commissioners that information. And if you can push that to your constituents, it may be helpful as well, so that they are all aware and can be eyes and ears and you know, protect themselves as best they can as well.
I'd like to add something as well. And Ms. Farmer, I think you raised a really important point. Like, what is the role of the ANC and what are we doing? to address crime. Couple of things. One is we don't have a direct hand in making policy or making laws, as I think most people know. The council is at that level. We are having ongoing conversations with Councilmember Che's office about what is clearly an increase in crime in Ward 3 in particular. And we know from the history of this city, especially back in the early 90s, when there was sort of a similar peak reached in terms of crime, and it was all sort of attributed to the crack epidemic, which then became a crime epidemic. And the city tried to arrest and incarcerate its way out of it, and it didn't work, because what it did was end up breaking up families and social systems and communities, which then led to more crime and a bigger cycle. Our conversations with Councilmember Che's office relate to addressing the root causes of crime in this city. And what that really means is strengthening the kinds of early intervention programs, like diversion programs, particularly for youth before they commit crimes, to get the Department of Human Services involved in assessing families that are placed in situations who may require more services than are available, and to figure out what appropriate environments those folks should be placed in based on their needs, whatever those needs are. So there are lots of different ways the ANC is involved that may not be apparent to you, to the community, but in terms of coordinating with dissemination of information and practices that might help our community stay safer, just in terms of keeping eyes and ears open, we are working with MPD, and I'll separately also on a different track with Councilmember Che's office to give our input on things, particularly as they pertain to sort of the bigger apartment and condo buildings where there have been, I think, some significant issues. So that's kind of the best we can do right now, but we're certainly always willing and able and always willing to listen to folks and their suggestions. We are not afraid to pass resolutions. The ANC does that very regularly, but there has to be, we like to do that in a smart way where there's a particular ask. So we're always open to that. And we are coordinating with Councilmember Che on her input at the council level where she has a direct impact on legislation and policy.
Thank you,
Thank
Commissioner Meta. Did someone say something? I just heard.
I think I'll add one point to what Commissioner Meta said. Is it on the policy front? We have advocated through the budget process for more money for services, because I know part of this, again, what Commissioner Meta talked about was how do we prevent this, and it really is getting services to households that need it. Whether it's domestic violence or whatever's going on there, we're trying to get through the budget process, more services, more resources where they're needed.
Thank you, Commissioner Meta, Commissioner Castile. Lieutenant Amadeo, thank you so much for always keeping communication with us and being responsive to the community. Public safety is a priority for us, so we will be doing this every month, is having a public safety update, just to keep you informed on what's happening in the community, as well as we're working towards mitigating the issues that are happening in our community. So thank you, Lieutenant Amadeo.
Thank you very much. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you. And we will be moving on to the District Department of Transportation with Christian Pinero.
Good evening, Chair David. How are you doing, ma'am?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Good to be back. Good evening, everyone. Commissioners, pleasure to be back. I'm going to be doing I came back, as you might be aware, in January to do a presentation on our new TSI process. It's been about 2.5 months since I've really made that kind of present across all of the SMDs in Ward 3, but I have gotten a lot of feedback and still some concerns and kind of questions from residents. So Commissioner David and I spoke, and I felt it was a good idea for me to come back and just highlight some what this process is and kind of do a little bit more of a deep dive, kind of step by step with like what the dashboard looks like and how the 311 service portion looks like, to just kind of answer some of those lingering questions. So I won't be taking too much of your time. If for those who were back in the January meeting, you've seen this before, but for residents who are seeing this again or haven't seen this in the first time, this is our new traffic safety investigation process. So it's a new system that well, it's not new, it's an older system we've had for many years, but we've modified it to make it a little bit more bearable for residents, and ease a lot of the kind of the difficult points of how to request a TSI to make sure that you can gain full control of what safety measures can be put into your neighborhood. So I'll talk about what that process looks like, briefly talk about what that old process was, and then kind of do the step-by-step guideline. And then I'll also do like a real down step-by-step of the dashboard that we've just released as well, that is very integrative for the public to use to really search what we have on our files and give a little bit more transparency to the residents. So traffic safety investigations formerly were called TSAs, which were traffic safety assessments. We've changed that term investigation to be a little bit more inclusive to what is actually done. It is a process that residents can use to request any traffic mitigation tools on their streets, so local roads, any arterials, basically across the network of the district department, well, that we do, but across the district. Residents can use traffic calming measures as a method to put in, so speed humps. We have right turn hardening, so those bollards and flex posts that you've seen. We've also had four-way stop control is another method, ATE, our automated traffic enforcement cameras. So those are methods that we can implement, should a particular road or network warrant that particular device. So as you can see on this slide, the old process really was a little bit of cumbersome for residents to use. As you can see on the left, it was a questionnaire was very common to be used that need to have ANC endorsement, had to go through a lot of hurdles before even getting into our DDOT system. The main difference is that we've eliminated that portion. So step 2, you see here highlighted in red. We've removed the questionnaire that residents need to require along with a 311. And we've also eliminated the need for a commissioner's written endorsement. So right now, residents only have to go to 311, and as soon as they put in all their information, we already have all that in our files, which is described on the next slide. Oh, well, it's later down, but yeah, for for the new process, for why we need it, back in October 12th of 21, Mayor Bowser made a big press conference advocating for the need for additional safety measures. And in response to that new program and initiative that she has, DDOT has moved forward with a streamlined approach. So as I mentioned before, this enhances transparency for residents. Go back one slide, please. Thank you. Enhances transparency for residents. It also is good for our operational use to make sure that we're being held accountable. There have been times in the past where people have sent requests and they just kind of go into this empty void that no one knows about, and they get lost and misplaced. And so this kind of keeps us abreast of what is in and how we can translate that for the public. And it also, of course, it's a method for accelerating safety across the district, which is our department's #1 goal. It's the mayor's #1 goal. And we hope that this new process can allow those interventions to be put in faster to eliminate safety risks and hazards. So this is the new TSI process. I've shared this new one-pager with the commissioners. If you want your own personal, direct knowledge to it, feel free to reach out to me and I can send that over to you. But this kind of gives that step-by-step play on what residents do to initiate a request all the way through towards seeing that particular safety mitigation implemented and put into the streets. And so I do want to note that TSIs are only focused for one location and one block at a time, or intersection. We've had many times in the past where traffic safety intervention requests are put in for the 3200 block of Pheasanton, but also, the 4100 block of Linnean. And so they're put into one request. We want to make sure that residents are aware that you could only do one location at a time. It makes it easier for our traffic engineers to do those analyses. And also from a budgetary and procurement perspective, we want to make sure we're tracking our resources efficiently so that we can have those things lined up in the system. Well, I guess this kind of goes through that step by step. Probably don't need to kind of go through that. But this is the first page you see on 311. This is, of course, accessible through the app, through our website. You can also call the 24-hour call center that you can kind of go through and get these requests in. But once you go into that site, oh, it's moving a little fast. I'm sorry.
Keep going or go back.
Oh, do like 2 slides before, just like I want to make sure everyone can fully process what's going on. Thank you so much. Yeah, okay, the next one. Okay, so on this slide, when you go into 301, this is probably one of the more important spaces for residents to really articulate what their concerns are. So it says, describe your safety concerns in detail. This is great for us to know what the specific location, house or block numbers are also crucially important. There's that corner on the top right you see, it says upload a file for photos and any visuals, which are also important for our engineers to really see what that specific concern is. So for an example, I'll go to number 2. So it says speeding is a problem along, X block of A Street. Cars are dangerously speeding, even though this is a school zone. This is really great because it allows our team to recognize that this is a school zone area. That's a hazard for kids. It's a hazard for pedestrians. And also it specifically states the block. And it keeps it open for our team to really see what type of mitigation would be necessary, whether that's a speed hump, if it's a local road, is it any other kind of traffic calming measure? And the person who puts in that request receives that update in their email periodically of what we've done, what comments have been made. And of course, residents can feel free to reach out to me specifically for any updates for that as well. So this next step, we'll have DDOT to evaluate the safety determination. As I mentioned, this will go straight to our engineers in our traffic safety division, and it will enter the queue for them to really investigate the problem. Step 3, DDOT communicates the findings and evaluations to the residents. So if no safety mitigation is warranted, we will let you know why that is, whether it's because of a functional classification, some kind of engineering requirement or dynamic. Some requests also get closed because of existing projects that are in the queue that will address those locations as well. I'll kind of discuss that a little further in the frequently asked questions section. But I'll also want to note that it does take about 130 business days from initiation. So when a resident pushes that submit, we have 130 days to assess, investigate, gather, and provide a recommendation within that timeline. For speed humps in particular, we usually do a quarter-based system. So our quarter starts with the fiscal year. So quarter 1 is October through December. Quarter 2 is January through March, which we're about to end right now, and so on. So the request put into this quarter, residents can expect to see changes happen or a response that we'll get by the next quarter, which is the next 3 months down the road. So it gives a little bit of a timeline for residents to expect when they can see some of these changes, but also, be aware of, how that's being messaged out. So if recommendations change existing traffic control or on-street parking, this will warrant our notice of intent or NOI process. This is a federally mandated process that we have to go through to inform residents of what these changes will be. It's a 30-day business public comment period. It gives the public to comment. It also gets sent to the ANC chair and the SMD commissioner of that particular location so that they're aware. During that 30-day business period, if we get any comments from the public, our engineers will take those into consideration before actually implementing the change to that road. And the final step is step 5. So we install the safety mitigations if they're warranted. As I mentioned, the quarter system that we have put into place. Weather pending, of course, there are many times like we're past the winter phase, but there'll be instances, of course, where inclement weather can stall some things, especially if there are pavement markings. There has to be a certain temperature of the asphalt for that to take place. Other projects surrounding the area that could also, kind of tweak that window, but we're staying committed and close to that 130-day process as much as possible. So, just to bring awareness to that, if there hasn't been like an immediate change within 130 days, those are definitely areas. But we also have had instances where it happens much sooner than that too. So it's kind of a range that we want to provide, depending on how difficult or complex the particular request is. So this is our TSI dashboard. You can go to the link that's highlighted in blue. It takes you directly to the interface. You can also search it on Google, and you can search it on our DDOT website under traffic safety investigations. They have 4 tabs. So if you go into the dashboard, you'll see on the top, it goes by ward, ANC, SMD, and service request number. So residents can go into this portal, search their specific area, and then you can see on the left where it says service requests in the blue boxes. Those are highlighted numbers that have been put into the system. It shows you the exact address that those are at, when it was initiated, and can give residents an idea of what was taking place there. Now, it's not as integrative as we want it to be yet. This is still technically a work in progress. We've heard comments from the public about having the service request number highlight what exactly the request says. So if it's a TSI for a speed hump, they can know what to expect there. But we're always receiving comments and ways to make this a little bit more streamlined. So bear with us if it's not as integrative as more of the technical savvy people probably would want. But we're getting there. This is definitely a great start. So on the first tab for pending DDOT review, this map here with the purple circles shows any request that has been submitted into our system that our team is actively looking at. And so this map shows, this is from a couple months back, so it's a little outdated, but it kind of gives an idea of what that looks like on the map. And you can click on those individual circles and it highlights those requests at that location of where they're at. Pending data collection, this means that a request is going through that data process, whether it's for a speed hump or a speed table or any always stop control. A lot of those measures require some kind of data report to be initiated, of course, just for our own awareness and to validate, whether those concerns actually match up with some of the numbers. So that's what those tabs mean, and you can click on those as well, and it says which one of those service requests are in the system for that. Pending installation. So this means that the data collection period has ended. We've made a determination what will happen and what will be installed. And so these individual icons, the yellow caution hump signs, of course, are for speed hump requests. And then there's other icons there that kind of show what's the type of request that's being put in. And then finally, closed service requests. The residents can also see what installations go through the entire service, what actually went in to the ground, and you can see the number of existing completed installations on that left side as well. So here's a list of some common questions I personally received, that the team has received throughout this whole new process. So to clarify, what happens with TSIs already in the queue under the old system is a common one that I've received. So those requests will follow the new model. There is a certain period of window where if it has lagged over a year or so, we suggest that residents kind of resubmit their requests through this new system, just directly into the 301, just so we have it on kind of the top priority list. But any new requests, of course, since the new year would follow this. The main difference between TSA and TSI, as I mentioned, is the removal of the endorsement letter and the questionnaire. And then to clarify the role of the ANCs, this has been a tricky topic to discuss with some groups. We obviously value the ANC's role with the insight and the kind of coordination you can bring in your positions. while this new process does eliminate some of those, some of the insight of the ANC involvement in the matter, we do still appreciate any feedback, appreciate any comments that you can provide. You're not going to be left out of the process, but in lieu of making sure that we can put these installations in faster and more efficiently, we had to truncate that process a little bit. So a common question I've gotten was, my TSI was closed with recommendations for safety improvements. Why don't I see work that happens underway? This goes directly into what I mentioned with the quarter system. And so, you know, a request put in this month will be installed next month and so on, or next quarter. And so, of course, weather pending, but at least it gives some a range for residents to understand when those interventions will be in place. And then another one is also, my TSI was closed without recommendations to make changes. Why did DDOT take no action? This is indicated when I said previously before about particular projects that are already in the queue that encompass some of these other areas. So I think of Connecticut Avenue. There have been many requests for more no right turn on red, or additional crosswalk paving measures. And a lot of those will be part of that capital improvement plan that's going to take place. And so I don't want residents to feel discouraged that we're, you know, closing their requests without any work done, but many of those type of requests that are related to a large scale capital project are part of the process. So specifically for Connecticut Avenue, where there's going to be signal changes, there's going to be upgrades to certain crosswalks, and a lot of those traffic hazards are going to be mitigated as well. And so we have that information in, but you know, having in the system is also a plus for us, just so we know that how much of an issue it can be that we need to address. Most of you, I think, are familiar with this from my last presentation, but we've also changed a little bit of our ANC resolution submission process. I think some of you have already reached out to me about getting access to that. I hope you were able to do so. If not, please reach out back to me and I can get our Octo team, you know, kind of coordinate with you. But we have this new portal, which is highlighted in red, where resolutions can be submitted. So an acknowledgement letter will be sent within 10 business days, and a tracking number for that request once it's in our system. And then we as an agency will provide a more official response within 60 business days, you know, pursuant to our regulations. This kind of gives a little bit more of a transparency and support and accountability on our part with making sure that your letters are being adequately addressed in a meaningful time. So apologies if that was a little longer than I hoped, but you know, here's my contact information. You can call and email me anytime. Feel free. I serve in your capacity to make sure that your questions are answered and your issues are worked on. So the pleasure is mine, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Pinero. Commissioners, have you got any questions? Have we got any questions from the public? Seeing none, thank you very much.
I do see, I'm sorry, Commissioner, I do see Commissioner Mehta put a message out. Oh, I'm sorry, did you want me to answer that, Commissioner, or you want me to do that offline? I'm sorry.
Sure, you can answer it online. It's a resolution that we, you know, that those 4 locations in Forest Hills for which traffic safety mitigation measures were requested from DDOT were also supported by a resolution that I uploaded to that system. But to be honest with you, I wasn't aware of all these other sort of machinations of the route to go through. So yeah, please. The question I asked for the community, by the way, since you can't see it all, I sent it directly to him, was what is basically the status of that, and is it being ignored if it didn't go through these exact procedures?
No, that's fine. I guess moving forward, we would always love a service request to be put in regardless, you know, if it goes through that process, just so we can have it in our tracking purposes. Our team is working on addressing that. And I think I'll kind of go ahead and put those into our system on your behalf, just because I know it's there have been hurdles there. But yeah, rest assured, anything that revolves around any sidewalk concerns, any traffic safety in general would go through our 311 process, even in this new format. But don't worry about that, Commissioner. I'll that's kind of in my purview. I'll be in charge of that.
Okay, I'm counting on you to shepherd it and also to let me know if for some reason it's being held up, especially if it's a procedural reason. I would hate for bureaucracy or process to hold up what I think at least many of those are pressing needs. They were vetted and studied by folks here, and the ones that were considered the most kind of pressing ones are what made their way into that memo that you have. So thank you for facilitating it, but also for shepherding it going forward. And I will sit tight and wait to hear from you guys.
No problem. Sounds good.
Thanks for all your work. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Pinero. Have a good evening.
Thank you, commissioners, and have a good night, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
Could I just make a comment about this? This is Marlene Berlin.
Yes.
So I've been involved in many issues dealing with kind of transportation infrastructure. And while we may gain something in efficiency, we may lose in the kind of give and take with neighbors and groups of neighbors dealing with DDOT. And I just think we should just be cautious about this new system, because DDOT, where before DDOT would come to the ANC and be clear about why or why not something would happen or not happen, I think we are kind of losing that connection with DDOT through this process. So I'm just giving you a heads up on that.
Marlene.
That's brilliant. I appreciate that comment. Thank you for that.
And Marlene, I chat with a lot of commissioners throughout the city in different wards, and a lot of commissioners also share your sentiment, just so you know that a lot of ANCs are not happy with this process. They feel that it does cut out the community in a way.
Because transportation issues are community issues. So
yeah. So
okay, I just wanted
you're not the only one. You're not the only one to have concerns by any means.
All right.
Just so you know.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you. We've got two more presentations. So we've got one from the Office of Campaign Finance, and then we've got one with the Levine School of Music. So Ms. Belinda Perry, who will just give us a quick overview on since we're in the election season right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair David and Commissioners. My name is Belinda Kittles Perry, and I am an attorney advisor with the Office of Campaign Finance, and I work in the Office of the General Counsel. Previous to this position that I'm holding now, I worked for the same office as a policy analyst at the inception of our now flagship program, the Fair Elections Program, which is a public finance program. So I just want to give you a brief overview. I know time is of the essence at this late hour, and I'm going to abbreviate my presentation, but hopefully I can come back and give more extensive details. But the office itself, for those that are not familiar with the structure, is divided into the Office of the General Counsel, the Training and Development Division, the Fair Elections Program. As you know, the Fair Elections funds across the nation have just proliferated. And there are over 34, 35 jurisdictions, and that was as of last year, that have some type of public financing. So DC joined those ranks in 2018. The legislation was passed in May, and the program was actually funded in November 7th, my birthday, unforgettable day, and it went live and operational. We have had a tremendous amount of success with the program. And just a little bit of background, the reason for the program, the reason for public financing throughout the country is basically to level the playing field, to take dark money out of politics, to limit corporate influence, to free up a person who's interested in running from having to chase donations and having them connect with their constituents to be and members of the community. And the way that this is structured is that the government, the DC government, has a fund, and they give anyone that's running for the offices that they're interested in a payment of 5 to 1. So it's a matching fund of $5 for every $1, based on their agreement to be bound by certain restrictions. Those restrictions are no corporate donations, only in-resident donations will be matched, and they are capped at a certain amount. And out-of-resident donations will not be matched, but they are still permissible as long as they are capped. So for instance, just to let you know the actual workings, the inner workings, the program looks like this. As of last year, we completed an entire election cycle. So that was 2020. That was the first entire rollout of the Fair Elections program. And in that program, in that election cycle, there were 20 candidates in the general, 12 candidates in the primary, and 4 candidates were in the special election. And you're familiar, that was Ward 2. And there was a total disbursement of funds to the tune of a little over $4 million to 36 candidates that participated in that program. To participate in the program, you have to have a threshold amount of donations, a threshold amount of contributors, and you have to become certified and agree to be bound by certain limitations. And again, those limitations are contributions are limited per the seat that you're running for. No PACs are acceptable, except the Fair Elections PAC, which do not exist at this time. No corporate donations, and limits on family loans are an aggregate of $5,000, unlike the traditional program where there are no limitations on personal loans. Once you are certified, you're entitled to a certain sum of money, and that is based on your contributions and your matching fund, but you also get a base payment. So for instance, if you're running for mayor, you're entitled to a base payment of a total of $160,000. For council chair, $40,000, and $40,000 for the following: attorney general, at-large counsel, ward counsel, and $10,000 for ward state board of education member. The payout distribution caps are also put in place, and they're put in place based on a 4-year analysis period of prior elections. So the cap currently for mayor for distributions under the program is little over $3.5 million. For council chair, $616, a little over $1,000. Attorney general, $825,000. At large council, $333,000, and ward council, $233,000, and ward state board of education, $33,000. So the way the program works is if you're running hypothetically for mayor, you have to have a total of 1,000 small dollar district resident contributors for a maximum of $200. Unlike in the traditional program, that position would allow a contribution of $2,000. So you're severely curtailed by your actual, the parameters by statute. So it's a sacrifice to agree to be in the program, but it also opens the doors for many people who would not otherwise have the inclination to run or have the means to run or the opportunity. So it's a really robust program. And as of the election cycle last year, well, 2020, there was a payout of over 4 million. And out of the 11 seats that were filled, 7 of those seats were filled with candidates who ran under the Fair Elections program. So as you see, we are fast approaching another primary and general election for 2022. It's going to be exciting. It is a full house court, and there's a lot going on. So I just encourage you to look at our website. We have a very robust website. And another factor, just to ensure complete transparency, every donation, everything is published on the website. All payouts are published, all orders are published, all matters that refer to the Attorney General's, well, the Office of General Counsel in the Office of Campaign Finance are published. If there's a candidate that has an unresolved question, they can contact our office and get an interpretive opinion on an expedited basis. That opinion, again, will be published. At the conclusion of the first cycle in 2020, there was a mandatory legal requirement that we publish a post-election cycle report. So it is over 1,000 pages and it is on our website. In addition, we also conducted a national survey of all the jurisdictions that have similar programs to compare and contrast our program and to seek recommendations for our program. Our program is a pretty purebred public financing program as opposed to a combination of grants like other jurisdictions. So there were no immediate recommendations for this cycle, and we will continue to monitor that to ensure that we have the best operating program that we can. But given the short life of the program, it's been a wonderful rollout. Another mandatory component of the Fair Elections program, again, to ensure transparency and to assure that there's no abuse and neglect or pilfering of funds, there is a mandatory audit for every single candidate. Once their campaign is terminated, everybody gets audited. And if there's any residual money left, those funds have to be put back into the Fair Elections Campaign Fund. So there are checks and balances, and it's, again, a robust program. Our office is extremely helpful, extremely friendly. All filings are online. All filings are transparent, and you can call anytime to get guidance because it is, if you're unfamiliar with it, it could be somewhat appearing to be daunting, but it's not. It's very user-friendly system, and again, very open access, and we will definitely be there to answer any questions. So thank you for allowing me to present, and hopefully I can come back with any other information that you might seek personally. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Have we got any questions from the commissioners?
I've got a quick question / comment. Ms. Perry, thank you so much. I think this is super helpful in an election year because I'm not sure that that the city at large, you know, if residents are really educated about this distinction among candidates. My question is the ballots, when they go out, will there be an indication on the ballot which candidates have chosen to be FEP candidates versus those that are taking private money and potentially, you know, opens the door to taking money from special interests and groups?
I don't know the answer to that. I have not actually focused on that, but that's an excellent question. And if you will permit me, I will directly contact you and give you an answer to that.
I would really appreciate that because
it's an excellent question.
I do believe everybody should know that before they cast their vote this year. And maybe to some folks it won't matter, and to maybe to others it will, but it is a threshold question. And it's a threshold question every candidate makes when they enter any race.
Yes, and it's also something that the candidate willingly discloses because it seems to be a big plus and it sort of thumbs your nose. I take clean money and other people take dark money. So it's kind of a thing that you is self-promoting, but I'm not sure if it's actually on the paper ballot. But I will definitely, and thank you for that question, because it's a novel question and I'd like to know the answer myself. So I will definitely get back and reach out to you.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks so much for appearing tonight. Super helpful.
Thank you. Good night, all.
And just,
Oh,
just to follow up on that comment, in 2020, there was no indication on the ballot about that, just so you know. So I don't expect there to be an indication in this year's ballot.
okay. Well, you know more than I do on that point. So we'll monitor that, but I will definitely look to make sure that it remains that way now. Thank you.
All right, any questions from the community? All right, seeing none, thank you so much, Ms. Perry.
All righty. Good night, all.
Thank you.
Great, now we have a presentation from the Levine School of Music, led by Commissioner Tenderick.
All righty. Hello, everyone. So we have a visa special exception from our lovely little school of music within ANC3F. I believe we have Mr. Sprecher on the call, and so he will take the lead on the presentation. So whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Actually, I'm going to hand it off to Jeff Tribble, who is our president and CEO, and he's on the call as well.
Love it. Thank you.
All righty. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. Again, my name is Jeffrey Tribble, and I'm pleased to serve as the president and CEO of Levine Music. Would I be permitted to share my screen? I have a PowerPoint presentation.
Okay, so we're going to give about 5 minutes on discussion. So just be mindful of the time. You are free to screen.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Well, for those who are not aware, Levine Music is a community arts organization founded 46 years ago, providing a welcoming home to everyone, regardless of age, ability, or means. Our foundational pillars are education, performance, and community. And in education, we offer 22 instruments and voice to students ranging from 4 months to 102 in every musical style, including classical, jazz, and rock. Our faculty of 180 gifted teachers tailor a musical journey to fulfill students' goals and interests at any of our 6 campuses across the metro region. We now have an online campus as well, outfitted for virtual learning at home. Here are some photos of our younger students, not the ones who are 102. And I've noticed that my bar here is in the way of your viewing the photos. We strive to build new audiences for music, most notably through Levine Presents, our signature faculty performance series offered free of charge and in partnership with local artists. Levine Presents offers a performance platform upon which our entire brand is showcased. Home, as I mentioned, to 180 exemplary faculty members, we are uniquely positioned to create authentic experiences that move, excite, and inspire audiences to spread cheer, but also to engage with Levine Music in many more ways. And through our community pillar, we open our doors to provide Levine instruction to those who lack the financial means through a very generous scholarship program, a campus in Southeast DC. And we also have had a presence in Southeast DC for more than 30 years. But in recent years, we've also added a music therapy program to our menu of offerings, opening our doors to children and adults with special challenges. And you can see some of our other community highlights here, including the fact that hundreds of families from this very ANC are enrolled at Levine currently. And here is just kind of a 30,000-foot view of who we're trying to reach and for what purpose. We connect with families to educate, enrich, and enlighten. We create platforms for artists and musicians to showcase their work. and we take a great deal of pride in being a good neighbor and active participant in the community. With all of that said, we are here tonight to discuss our main campus, which is located at 2801 Upton Street. We've been operating there for the last 25 years, and we believe we have worked successfully in partnership with both our institutional and residential neighbors over the years. We are proud to say that, as I mentioned, there are literally hundreds of families within the boundaries of this ANC that have attended classes on our campus. Our campus operates pursuant to a special exception approval from the BZA, and the term on that approval is set to expire this coming summer. We have submitted an application with the BZA to allow us to continue to operate on Upton, and we are simultaneously proposing some modest changes to the conditions that the board imposed 25 years ago. First and foremost, we are not proposing any expansions. We are not proposing any additions to the campus or to the approved cap on our student population. We are, however, proposing to make 4 changes to our operations. Number one, we'd like to increase the cap on our Sunday sessions from 12 per year to 36 per year. 2, we are proposing to extend our Saturday hours, which currently end at 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. 3, we would like to provide outdoor performances on our campus that would be open to the public. And finally, we are asking that our application approval authorize continued use by Levine without a term. With respect to the outdoor performances, we have been asked by our neighbors on numerous occasions why we don't offer outdoor performances and concerts for the public. And in short, it hasn't been permitted under our zoning approval. And so we see this application as the perfect opportunity to introduce this change. We're proposing that all outdoor performances would end by 7 p.m. and would not include any amplified sound to ensure that they won't adversely affect our neighbors. And so we love to work with the ANC to provide notice of the performances to make them a true asset to the neighborhood. And we've been grateful to be a part of this community for the last 25 years and appreciate the ongoing support. And I would be pleased to take any of your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Treble. So we're not doing a vote on this at all tonight, but this is purely informative. So if any commissioners have any questions, and then we'll get to the community. Commissioner Cristille, then Commissioner Tendera.
Well, thanks for the presentation. And I'm a neighbor, but I was unaware that you have concerts that are available. So I've just learned something new tonight. I guess the question is, where do those concerts that are? It sounds like they're out. Are they outdoors, or and if so, where?
So currently we are not doing outdoor concerts, though we would like to, and we're unable to because of our current restrictions. But the concerts that we do have on our Upton campus, at least, happen generally in one of 2 places, a recital hall that we kind of colloquially refer to as the Lang, and then another recital hall that we colloquially refer to as, why am I drawing a blank? It's because it's 9 p.m.
The Cunin.
The Cunin, excuse me. And we do have a number of other kind of larger classrooms where we might open up those doors for recitals and things of that nature, but they're all indoors.
Okay, so I guess part of the question was if they're indoors and the hours are extended, at least from what people can hear. Although if I were a neighbor, and this, I'm just speaking for myself now, I think I'd want to hear them, but it sounds like since they're inside the building, the sound doesn't really carry. So
that's right.
Commissioner Tendera.
I just want to give a comment though. So during our schools and universities committee last month, which people are more than able to attend each month, that's on the 4th Monday of the month, we actually had Levine School of Music give us a presentation on this, and we all agree, I think it's like a really great idea. It just gives more community support and events to the area. As you can tell from my screen, I'm also a musician, so any way in which people can play experience enjoy music, I'm all here for. So I'm definitely here. And I know that Commissioner Appa would agree with me as well, based on what we heard from our last committee meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner Walden, Commissioner Namath.
A question for Mr. Tribble. One, thanks for the presentation. I learned a lot also about the school. And I was wondering, with regard to outdoor performances, have you ever considered reaching out to UDC to see if you might do some of your programming in their amphitheater, which is a great facility that already has the movie programming, and it might not solve all of your needs, but just to have a few shows to get more out there into the community.
Few things. So one, I have a really great relationship with Alan Johnson, who's the chair of the jazz department there. And so we have had conversations about this, and I don't see it as being impossible. Two, one thing that I failed to mention is that we do have a great relationship with the Van Ness Main Street. It looks like Gloria may have taken her leave for the evening, but we did a series of performances in partnership with Van Ness Main Street at various venues alongside the corridor. And so to your point, Stan, we are doing our best to also utilize and take advantage of existing assets in the community.
Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner, this is Juanita from UDC. I would just ask, sorry, Jeff, if you would please reach out to me and
Sure.
I can see what could be done here at the university to assist with you all.
Sure. Thank you, Ms. Gray.
Put my information in the chat for you.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita of UDC. Commissioner Namath.
Hi, so I just have some specifics about the special exception and process question as well. So first I'll do the easy process question. Your hearing is on April 20th. Is that what I noticed? So our next ANC meeting is April 19th, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly. So is that enough time for us to, well, if we vote on April 19th, assuming we vote to approve, is that enough time for us to submit the material for your hearing the following morning?
So I brought this up, Commissioner Nemeth, at the School Universities Committee meeting. And so the idea is that me and Commissioner Appa would fill out the report like right away after the meeting, and then try to send it over to the BZA to the committee like the morning of. So yeah, we're aware it's like a very short turnaround, but we definitely believe that like we can definitely fill out the reports and have everything in by the time the hearing happens.
Okay, and I would recommend talk to whoever the person who's handling the hearing or the managing the docket to like let them know that it's coming in so that they know to expect it. I would recommend that you like get a hold of them like a week before, a few days before, so they know to expect that. And then my specific request is, what exactly is the special exception? I mean, so you're saying so because the property is not used in a way that it's.
Hi, my name is Christine Roddy and I'm land use counsel for Levine, so I'll jump in here. And so with the zoning of this site, private school use is actually not a matter of right use. It requires a special exception. And so when the school located there 25 years ago, they received that special exception with the 25-year term. And as Mr. Tribble said, that expires this summer. So we're returning to the board to renew that.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. That's it.
Thank you. Have we got any more questions from the commissioners? Any questions from the community? We'll vote on this in April, so there'll be probably more discussion, more questions then. But thank you so much for educating us on the school and on your request that you need help with. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us. Have a good evening.
Same to you. All right, now we'll move on to committee reports. Have we got anyone from the Streets and Sidewalk Committee?
looking at, I don't see a Commissioner Wall. I don't see, I know Bob's, I don't see Bob, and I think sometimes Kathy Sykes is on. I don't see anybody from Streets and Sidewalks.
Okay. Have we got any commissioners who can speak on updates from Streets and Sidewalks?
I think both Commissioner Castile and I were in the meeting. I think the one kind of big item is there was a lot of discussion around the next stage of design work for Connecticut Avenue that's about to commence. So I think, and again, Commissioner Castile, correct me if I'm wrong, but they are reconvening the advisory committee around that project as they go into this next phase of design. So that's one area of focus. The other area is, as Commissioner Mehta mentioned earlier, there's a number of resolutions that have been submitted as relates to traffic calming, restoration of the L1 bus in the L1 bus in the corridor. And the idea is, now we're thinking about like, how do we actually further amplify those submittals, beyond just submitting them into the system, but looking at ways to, push those out to the council member's office, to DDOT, to other places to make sure they get as much visibility as possible. There's also some discussion around Brandywine Avenue, and particularly the intersection of Brandywine and 32nd, which forms the gateway to the Soapstone trailhead, and looking for ways to do traffic calming at that intersection, since there's currently no crosswalks going from the north side of Brandywine to the south side, as well as potentially investigating the idea of either a speed hump or traffic table to slow down the traffic that's going to streaming down Brandywine heading toward Connecticut Avenue. So those are the three of the items that were discussed in our last committee meeting, and hopefully I'll have more updates in our next meeting next month.
And when does the committee meet again? Do you remember?
Oh, I am sorry, I do not remember the date.
No, but it's all on our website.
It is. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Wall. Parks and Watershed. We got any more? Okay. From Parks and Watershed Committee. Commissioner Mehta, did you want to?
Sure, yes, I don't see anybody. We had a meeting last week, which was devoted entirely to the Soapstone Sewer Rehab Project. And the meeting focused largely on the technical aspects of implementing the project. And there was a gentleman there from a consulting firm, I won't remember the name, Hazen and Sawyer, I believe, who shared a lot of the details around the mechanics of the project. There was a desire to take it to kind of a higher level. So let me just briefly outline what the sort of major issues are in terms of information at this point. One is we asked DC Water to share with us the number of trees that were being removed and how they break down in terms of heritage versus special versus trees that don't fall into either category. Number two is we asked for clarity on emissions into the air, land, and water around Soapstone. Number three, we asked for more clarity. Commissioner Castile pressed them for clarity on schedule. And number four, we asked for more details on the restoration aspect, the back end of the completion of the project. What kind of efforts will be made to restore, restore the plants and the soil and that stuff around the stream. I did receive today, and haven't even had a chance because I sort of pressed DC Water to send us in advance of tonight's meeting, a fact sheet that I've been requesting on trees. The bottom line is we are being told by DC Water that 245 trees will be removed. Of those 245, 0 of them are heritage trees. 5 are special trees, which means they range in diameter from, I believe, 45 centimeters to 99, and therefore they have a special protection status in our city, which means that if it was my yard, for example, I would have to pay a fee to take that kind of tree down. And the remaining trees, which is 240 of them, are too small in diameter to be either a special tree or a heritage tree. Rather than read data, I will make sure that this is posted on the ANC's website. for anybody who is interested in looking at that. There is a commitment also by DC Water for a 1-to-1 replacement for the 245 trees removed, including the invasive trees, to replace them with native species. A breakdown of that will also be on the ANC's website, plus an additional 25 trees to be planted at the direction of NPS. Related to emissions into the air, land, and water around this project, the short answer is we don't have clarity on that right now, but I do have a commitment in email from DC Water to share that with us. They acknowledge that they're chartering new territory with trying to assess how they will monitor and manage any outflows from this project. Scheduling is also very much up in the air. We have some general understanding that the trees will start to be removed as needed, and only those that are needed to be removed over the next few weeks, but that the project itself won't start until sometime in early to midsummer. And we have very little information on the restoration part of it on the back end, and we'll continue to press. DC Water is also about to, they say that they're pretty close to, quote, standing up a website that is dedicated to this project. And as soon as that happens, we will include a link to it from the ANC's website as well, so information can be disseminated. I'd also like to take, I don't know if they're on this, I don't see that they're necessarily on this call, but I'd like to take a step back. I know there's a lot of concern in the community around emissions and trees and the scheduling and how this project will be conducted and how long it's going to take. I'd like to point out a couple quick things as we embark on this project. Number one is, I am convinced, and I think my fellow commissioners agree, that it is a very necessary project. Otherwise, we are facing some serious risk of infrastructure, the pipes and the sewers and the outfalls failing, which could end up with being a bigger problem for the community well beyond this project. Number two is, I did not know, I have to admit, I've been a commissioner for a little over a year now, and I did not know much about this project coming into it. Everything I know at this point is largely due to two people in our community who I'd like to take a few minutes to just quickly recognize. Marjorie Scher, who is not an elected official, who is not a journalist, who is really just a very active, engaged citizen, has done a tremendous service to our community over the past 6, 7, 8 months, probably even longer than I know, in terms of getting information out, in terms of digging deep into the details, in terms of holding our agencies accountable with information. When she started digging into this, DC Water was planning to remove over 800 trees. And I think largely due to Marjorie's efforts, as well as the second person is Marlene Berlin, who runs the Forest Hills Connection and does an incredible service to this community by disseminating information, but also really, most people don't see in the background how much investigative work she does. She pushes the agencies to come forward with information. She goes back with follow-up. She doesn't take things at face value. So between Marjorie's and Marlene's efforts, our community has been incredibly well served. And I think that we're going into this project. It is not perfect. I'm not suggesting that it's perfect, but I am suggesting that we are in a much better place than we were 6 or 7 months ago. And I can assure you that we, the commissioners, will hold the agencies accountable as we go forward. It won't be a perfect process. It can be messy. Communication may not be exactly as we would like it to be, but we will do our best to ensure that this goes as smoothly as possible. And I really mostly just wanted to commend Marjorie and Marlene for their work on behalf of this community. I'm grateful to them for their education and their patience and their urging to me and my fellow commissioners to hold people accountable as this project embarks. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mehta. I saw Marjorie had her hand up. Marjorie, did you want to comment?
Well, first of all, thank you, Commissioner Mehta. I certainly wasn't expecting that. And thank you for all your work, and to Commissioner Wall and everybody as well, and to the ANC for years before this. Your work is tremendous. I just wanted to make one additional comment. You summarized it really beautifully, that what the park will look like at the end of all this is still very murky. At least to me, it is. And it hasn't been made clear by anybody really as to what the park will look like, what the stream restoration will be, what are the designs for it? Is there any way that either they or we separately can enhance the park in terms of functionality or aesthetics so that the Montessori schools can better utilize it, that what the trails will look like, what the stream will look like? We really just don't know that. And I did a little bit of looking into this, and my understanding is that in other areas of the park, the stream restoration is always carried out by the Department of Energy and Environment, and then they contract to others. In this case, it's really unclear, and that was one of the reasons for the meeting last Tuesday with the Park and Watershed meeting, to really say, can you come and show us, can you tell us what the park is going to look like, what are the designs, and who is doing it? There were some things that they raised, which were they don't know if they're going to put down the boulders first or line the pipes first. They haven't decided. And there were some other things that, at least in my mind, made things even less clear. So I'm wondering why the Department of Energy and Environment, in this case, maybe is not in charge of carrying this out. And that's something that I think we're exploring. And the reason it's important now is that they're going to take down the trees in the next couple of weeks. And so if we look at that and what is really happening near the outfall at Albemarle on 32nd Street and what is happening to the stream in that area, they're taking down an awful lot of trees in that area. And maybe if we really explore what they're doing with the stream, and we were told that the preponderance of trees are being taken down because of that work, the stream and the outfall, that maybe even more trees can be saved. But that needs to be looked at, and the overall look of the park. How is the park going to function, and aesthetically what it's going to look like? Because it has economic impact. Some people are putting their houses on the market. Some people are not renewing their leases in the rental apartments. So I'm having a sense that there is going to be some economic impact. And so we want to maximize opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment, Marjorie. Thank you for your presentation, Commissioner Mehta. Have we got any, the chair for schools and universities?
I would just like to respond to Marjorie's point, though. Marjorie, just to assure you, the restoration piece of it is not falling off the table, but we are prioritizing the things that are going to happen sooner. So, and that is the trees, and that is the project implementation itself. So, you know, there is some prioritization around the timing of this, and we are working on that. And DOE has not yet confirmed or shared with us exactly what their role is going to be in terms of issuing permits. They still have not decided whether they are going to require a permit or not in this, as this project unfolds.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Marjorie.
Commissioner Tenderick, can you speak on, do you know of any?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I don't think Tavon is on the call. She actually called me earlier in the call to update on me. She's on her way home, so she might not be able to update, but I can definitely take over. So again, our meetings are every fourth Monday. The link for that is on our website, ANC3F.com. And we mostly talked about a couple of things. We talked a lot about the Levine School BZA. We discussed as well too for Tavon's plan. So she's actually hosting a community cleanup. So she wanted a way to sort of get involved in the community, as well as bring people together in Van Ness, as also a way to help us, some of the students in the area. So she is coordinating that with Gloria for Van Ness Main Street on sort of how to sort of implement that. So be aware of updates for future meetings, and just get ready for that. It should be like a really cool event. Two of the things I will add to, we are aware of the Whittle School sort of foreclosure happening right now. It's been kind of in the news recently, so we're sort of actively following that and engaging with the school on like figuring out what's going on and just that sort of stuff. So we'll definitely let you all know. And then Commissioner Appa is not here tonight, but she's keep updated with Howard Law a lot on the potential master plan, as well as how the master plan will help out, will sort of affect the residents of both my and S&D as well as Commissioner Appa's S&D. So we're sort of actively being involved in that process as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Tender. Housing and neighborhoods, have we got Zach?
Chair Tashman's not here, but I know I was at their last meeting and they had a presentation from the Office of Planning on the Rock Creek West roadmap, which essentially is, essentially describes how the Rock Creek West area, which is largely Ward 3 and a little bit outside that, is going to achieve some of the affordable housing goals and focusing on the corridor planning on Connecticut and Wisconsin avenues. And again, I think Commissioner Tanderick mentioned the Howard Law School as part of that. So it was really a presentation to kind of set them up for, again, how to get more housing here in the ward. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner Christel. And when do they meet again? Housing and neighborhoods?
I don't know. They didn't have a set time, but I know Zach has been pretty good about getting the notice on the website.
Okay. Thank you. And now we have our community forum. I know Juanita. Hey, Juanita.
Hi, Commissioner.
Yes, your update.
All right, thank you very much. If I am allowed to share my screen, that would be great.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so I'd like to start with, and I'm not sure if Mrs. Farmer is still here. I know that there are a lot of issues happening in our community. The university is very aware of them, and we are working with MPD and local law enforcement to do what we can to address the issues. But one of the other priorities of the community are the tennis courts here at the university. So I do want to speak on them for a few minutes. Right now, I am at the homepage of the university's website. For those who are interested in signing up for the University Tennis Club, we are up and running. So if you are here at the university webpage, you can scroll down to where it says athletics, which is a quick link. Let's see how quick it is. All right. I think it's because we're on a Zoom call, but normally it would be a little bit quicker. So once you reach the athletics link, you can click over to, can't see what that says, and you scroll down to tennis court membership. It gives you a lot of information here, but then scroll down to registration for the Firebirds Access Tennis Program here. So the thing that everyone will want to do is to create an account right here. So you fill in all this information. I'm going to give a little hack to this date of birth piece right here. If you click on March 2022, click on 2022, click on it again, it'll give you a date range. Some of us were born before 1980. So you would just want to click to your age range and then pick the year, and then you can pick the month, and then you can pick the day, and then go from there. That was a question that a community member had earlier. So I just wanted to point that out, that there are shortcuts to getting through that part. So the way this program is working, once a person has created their profile, you do have to mail and or hand deliver a check to the university. I understand that that is potentially a little cumbersome for some community members. Unfortunately, at this time, the university can only accept checks. So you can mail that in to the Dr. Edwin Bancroft Henderson Sports Complex at 4200 Connecticut Avenue Northwest, Or the university is, or the athletics department, I should say, are having 3 days where community members can walk into the complex, present their checks, and they will have immediate access to create their account and have direct access to schedule times to sign up. Those dates are Saturday, March 13th from 10 a.m. to noon, Tuesday, March 22nd, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., and Wednesday, March 23rd, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. I will be sending this flyer out to Manus Main Street and to Forest Hill Connection so that they can get this information out to the community. So before I move forward to my next agenda items, are there any questions on the tennis club? How to access it, how it's going to be run, any other questions? No?
Oh, thank you.
So just what you are past the pilot program, so now there's no limit to the number of memberships, is that?
Yes, Commissioner. So the way that it works, that community members will have to pay a fee. So there is a $200 fee for the entire 12-month year, March 1 through August 31st, 2022, and any subsequent year would be $100 per household. And then September 1st through February 28th would be another $100 per household. And then you would sign up each individual person in your household, on the website. Once you sign up, once we have received your check, then you will receive a code for you to access the system that we're using, which is Court Reserve. Court Reserve is a system that was one of the many that were recommended by the community. So we did listen to the community, the tennis community in particular, who had specific information on different reservation systems that they were recommending. So we chose Court Reserve. Once we receive your resignation or once you create your account and once we receive your $100, then you'll receive the actual access code to sign up for reservation slots.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, I don't know how to get out of sharing screen from here. Let me see if I can do that. Stop sharing, there you go. All right, the last two things. The university has our budget hearing with council on March 29th at noon. We are asking ANC3F for a resolution of support and overall support for the equity imperative, which we have received from ANC3F in the past. But we're also asking support of a strong capital budget for renovations of our buildings that we are in desperate need of. So we are asking that the commission can put this up on their upcoming April meeting. I know that there is a specific system that this current ANC has, but we are asking for just support for our budget process. And Commissioner Cristile can speak a little bit more about that if he would like to.
Sure, I'm gonna, given the hour, I'm not gonna speak a lot, but I think we're gonna have to work with you, and I don't know if it's schools and universities, but to get this resolution pretty quickly. So I think you're gonna need to give us information in terms of, you know, what you want, why you want it, and we'll, you know, we can get something together.
Great,
for
thank
the
you. We appreciate
meeting.
that.
I will email you about that because I want to hear more.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Tendarek. And that's all I have. Thank you.
We've got a question.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I wanted a quick question for you. When is your next UDC Community Task Force meeting? And is there a website to be able to show that? Because we tried to come to the last one, but we couldn't find like the link for that and stuff.
So I had a family emergency, so that meeting did not take place, so you didn't miss anything, so that's good. It's coming up in April. I am waiting for a few things that we have happening on campus to be solidified before I make the announcement of the date, but it will be in April.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have we got any other questions for Juanita? Hearing none. Thank you very much, Juanita. We've got one question. We've got a comment or question from Marcellus Walker.
Yes, hello, and thank you for the opportunity to join you. My name is Marcellus Walker. I'm the Chief of 311 Operations for DC 311 and the Office of Unified Communications. And so I'll be brief, but one of the main reasons why I reached out to this ANC, there was a report recently done in analyzing some of our data and making sure that we're covering and providing services to the district as a whole. It showed that our submission rate for service requests in the district in Ward 3 were low. And so I wanted to just come out to as many community meetings as I can to be able to just educate the public that and notify them that 311 is here and willing to work with you all to assist you. I know you had a presentation concerning traffic safety investigation, and so we're a part of that process as well. And so just wanted to again educate. There are multiple ways to connect with 311. You can either call 311, you can either use our 311 app that's available in any Apple store and any Galaxy stores. You can also go on the online portal 311.dc.gov, and then through the app in the portal we have a live agent feature that we man during regular business hours from 7 to 5 Monday through Friday. And last but not least, you can always tweet us at 311dc.gov if you have any concerns. And then lastly, I'll just end that since 311 is the point of contact we're a conduit for that connection for residents with the district government, you'll definitely put your request in through us. But just want to make sure, sometimes we get concerns from residents and they ask us, hey, why did you close out that service request? And we just want to make sure that we, make the public aware that the responding agency. So for example, the presentation that you had on the traffic safety investigation, although that service request will start with 311, those are the responding agencies that close out those service requests and respond to them. And when they close out the service request, it initiates an email notification from our system. And so again, just wanted to educate the public on 311. However I can be assistance for this great ANC, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Have we got any questions from any of the commissioners? Any questions from the community? All right, thank you so much, Mr. Walker. What's your contact again?
I'll put it in the chat.
All right, thank you. Have we got any more comments from the community? Any announcements? Okay, Amir. Amir, you're.
Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Amir Gurabintab. I am the other Ward 3 Mokers, the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, Tony Donaldson Jr.'s partner. I've been on the job for a year and some change right now, but I haven't probably met most of you because Tony's been handling this area of the ward. And since he's gone for now, I'm the only Mokers for Ward 3 till further notice. Just wanted to make this aware, and if anyone needs any assistance with any Mokers stuff, I'll put my contact in the chat. And while I'm here, I'll just share a couple quick announcements. So the mayor is planning on revealing the budget to the council and having that voted on sometime this week. We were told a date of Wednesday, tomorrow, but that might be extended to later this week. So stay tuned for that. And a couple announcements from DPW. For those who aren't aware yet, they've begun street sweeping over on March 1st until October 30th. So we ask that motorists please obey the street signs that say when street sweeping is occurring and not to park their cars for that time. And alley cleaning will resume April 1st until October 31st. And they operate on a schedule where residents can call 311 to request an alley cleaning for alleys that pose a hazard to public safety or have become inaccessible to emergency vehicles. And finally, graffiti removal has also begun now that it's spring. And if the graffiti is on private property, a waiver of liability form must be provided and signed by the property owner and returned to DPW before the graffiti is removed. Finally, I wanted to announce a virtual job fair held by Mayor Bowser and the Department of Human Resources that are encouraging residents to sign up for a wide variety of District of Columbia government jobs since we have over 500 vacancies. The hiring fair is going to take place starting tomorrow into Thursday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. both days. And job seekers can chat with hiring managers from across district government, have an opportunity to interview via video chat or phone call, and a few agencies might even offer on-the-spot job offers to certain applicants. So great opportunity to get a good, stable government job if anyone's interested. And I'll put my contact information in the chat as well. Are there any questions from commissioners or community members while I'm here?
Have you got any flyers for the job fair?
Not that I've seen. So I think the main way that this was announced was a lot of people got an email straight from DCHR. I guess they have a directory of people who live in DC. But if we need more outreach, I'll certainly be posting this on the listservs as well. But no flyers that I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. Any questions from commissioners?
I have a quick question, Chair David. Amir, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your presence here in the ward. And I have a question. I'm not sure if you're on the entire call, but earlier there's a lot of discussion around crime that's been occurring in our part of the city that is not unlike what's been happening in other parts of the city, but unusual for the Van Ness and Forest Hills area. And with that in mind, is there anyone within the administration who could come speak to us and provide more detail to the community around, from the executive standpoint, what's being done to help to offset these trends that we're seeing?
That's a great question, Commissioner Wall. I actually should have mentioned, and thank you for reminding me. So as part of the budget process, we've invited a few agency heads and deputy mayors to come speak about their aspect of the budget. And so the top priority I selected for an agency head was actually Deputy Mayor for Public Safety and Justice, Chris Geldart. So we've invited him as a top priority for this ANC to come speak at his earliest convenience. Usually that happens, as you've seen last year, usually around April or May. I'm not sure when it was for this ANC, but if we have availability with him, he is the first choice for this ANC as well. So we hope to have him here.
That would be fantastic. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Commissioner Christelle.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just to piggyback on, I mean, again, we talked, there's a number of ways to get it, this sort of problem. And we've, in the past, we've put together resolutions on the human services side. So the behavioral health and the supported services. I mean, that's, again, it's part of the puzzle. And so I think we want to make sure that would be another set of agencies to.
Yep, DHS is on second priority as well. So it's DMPSJ, DHS, and for third place, it was DDOT, but we'll see what they decide for us.
Okay, no, thanks, welcome.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners, anyone from the community? Amy.
Hi, everyone. My name's Amy Sonnenberg. I'm from Councilmember Mary Che's office. Usually you see Stephen Palmer on these meetings. He's in the redistricting task force meeting tonight, so I'm just taking his place just for tonight. And I just wanted to say that, piggybacking off of what Amir said with the budget coming out probably this Friday, and especially with the last thing he said about DDOT, is DDOT's budget meeting is April 4th. So if anyone wants to testify, get on the witness list for that. It's April 4th. I'd be happy to send the commissioners, if you don't already have it, an updated budget calendar, because I know the one on the website had a lot of TBDs on it. I don't know if that's changed because I just look at the one downloaded on my desktop now, but if you need that, I'd be happy to send that along.
Thank you. Please send that along. That would be great. Any other comments, questions? Amir, thank you so much. And well, you've been around, honestly, but you're replacing Tony. But thank you so much for all of your help so far.
Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
You got ahead of me.
Second.
Will anyone make a motion to adjourn? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
That's what I was trying to do. I make a
David
motion.
just did.
Oh, I thought you were requesting and not making one. Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? The motion passes. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much.
Aye.
All right. See you next month.
Night, everyone.